We are once again live at Stillwater Books for this ongoing series of author interviews for the upcoming Rhode Island Author Festival. This is happening on December 5th. It's going to be an entirely virtual event. It's going to be author meetups, it's going to be forums, panels, interviews, the whole nine yards. I'll be hosting the whole thing, so you go to riauthorexpo.com for more information. And my next guest is author Joann Mead. We last had her on the show a couple of years ago.
3 years ago,
3 years
right?
ago.
Yeah, almost to the day.
To talk about her book, Tiger, which is basically about this designer pathogen, more or less.
Yeah.
Timely, I think.
Yeah.
But instead we're going to be switching gears and talk about her newest book, Designer Baby, which is all about basically custom-made children. So Joann, first off, well, thank you for joining me. I'd start with.
Well, thank you for having me.
Of course. Anytime to talk about like global conspiracies
Yes.
and massive genetic engineering on a horrific scale, which
Yes.
is some really, really good stuff.
Right.
Walk us through the plot of Designer Baby.
Okay, Designer Baby sort of leaves off where Tiger was. We have the same bioterrorist, a woman. Her name is May Wong. She's also called Tiger Woman. She's called Tiger Girl. She has a new alias. She's May Tran, or Mai Tran. Now, she's on the run from having created a 9/11 style plot to attack America, along with her nihilist professor boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
They had planned on putting his students arriving from Europe. Actually, he was in Pisa, Italy, and flying them into American cities, all infected with the highly contagious, high mortality, 60% mortality rate. These students were going to come in and fly to American cities. So, and that was something I created back in 2015. I still feel guilty that somehow I may have created this pandemic.
You gave him ideas,
But,
perhaps, you know?
Yeah, it was something, actually it's based on science, because there is a lot of manipulation of viruses, and also now the biggest thing, of course, is manipulating humans, manipulating our own genome, our DNA, to create designer babies. And while May Wong, she ended up in Scandinavia, she escaped.
Spoiler alert!
Yeah, spoiler alert in book 2. But she's on the run. She had a lot of money originally, but she ran out of money. So she's now, it starts in a hotel room in Stockholm, and she's with this very evil thug, a Russian thug. His name is Vladimir. I don't know where I got that name. And he was a John that went bad. Mm-hmm. And he dumped her purse in this hotel room, and he came across one last honey sweetie,
Oh, no.
which was something I gave to you 3 years ago.
And I'm still here, so
and he's
there.
still here, but that last honey sweetie had been injected with a non-contagious variety of tiger flu. And tiger flu, by the way, is a real flu. It was found in tigers. It was a bird flu found in tigers back in 2014 from eating, chicken. But anyways, the tiger flu, he popped it in his mouth. He was a very nasty character. She was with him for 3 days, but within 3 days, he became very ill and became brain dead. And again, she had to escape. From Stockholm, she went over to Gothenburg, Sweden. And in Gothenburg, she meets a Swedish gentleman. He's a cosmetic surgeon. She had had a lot of cosmetic surgery done, and he noticed when he was talking to her, he could see the scars on her face where she had her eyes rounded. So he knew that she wasn't quite who she said she was. And she tried to con him into a designer baby scan. Oh, you're such a handsome man. Do you have children? No. But, you could with gene editing, with genome editing. We can design your perfect child. And he didn't really believe her. But it ended up that he had a lot of wealthy clients being a cosmetic surgeon. And she suggested, and he thought it was a good idea, that perhaps they could make a lot of money. Now, any questions?
No, I'm still here, yeah.
Okay, so what happens next? Well, one of his clients, Sven, was a very wealthy fellow. He was the lead guitarist in this heavy metal band, and heavy metal is really big in Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but they were called the Ethereal Angels. Now he had
Only a metal band would have that kind of
right,
name.
you're right, devils or angels. Well, these are
Right.
the Ethereal Angels, and he and Lars were good friends too, because Lars he was really smashed up on a lot of his heavy metal days, and had a broken nose and stuff, so he reconstructed his face. But Lars tells him, we now have this new program. It's only available to some people. We call it Neonatus Perfectus. And what we can do is we can take your genes and that of your band, and we could recreate your band, only perfected as a group of a boy band, right? And of course, that was something that he found very intriguing. And they had discussed this out on his yacht. And of course, if you were to design your own baby or your own child, what traits would you want? Can you think of
Entirely joking, quiet.
You want quiet kids.
You ask any parent, they will say quiet.
Quiet kid. Well, in this case, this is going to be a heavy metal band, so I don't think we're going to have quiet kids.
Fair point.
But let's just say, just generally, what would people want if they could design their own child? What are some of the real basic things, do you think?
Healthy, definitely.
Healthy.
Yep, they would
Definitely
want them,
healthy.
Because obviously, SIDS and
Or any inherited diseases.
exactly. Yeah.
There are
heart problems, neurological problems.
Right.
So I would say they would want a child that's as healthy as possible,
Right.
minus anything, especially if they had anything inherited,
right.
like heart problems
Yeah.
or
And
whatever.
there's hemophilia, which is actually being worked on.
Sure.
Cystic fibrosis. These are applications that are out there, and hopefully someday that could be done where you can edit out those genes. However, then it gets into the more murky areas of what other types of traits.
You want your kid to be, really intelligent,
Yes,
really attractive.
high intelligence, very attractive, of course.
So you're basically just making this custom kid.
Yeah.
One thing I was curious about is the science behind this.
Right.
How science fiction is this?
Well, this is not science fiction. It's based on CRISPR,
Okay.
gene editing. Just 4 weeks ago, 2 women won the Nobel Prize in biochemistry. They won the prize for actually not inventing, but for discovering the CRISPR method. I'm not going to go into the science of it.
Sure, yeah.
But basically, the method for gene editing is you can take a gene, you can take a little snip of DNA, you can delete it, and then replace it with a corrected gene. Now, this has been done. This has been done in China in 2018.
Jeez.
And this is not, this is for real.
Yeah.
There were twins edited in China in 2018 by a Dr. He, H-E. He edited the they were 2 little girl embryos. They took out the gene for HIV that would basically protect the twins from HIV. Now, you would think that's an odd one. Well, it's the CCR5 gene, and this
Okay.
is a real gene. And he announced it at one of the big meetings on gene editing, and he's now in jail for 3 years in China. they did not take it lightly. But there are 2 babies out there that have had this particular gene edited. And you would think, well, but this is the first pair of gene-edited twins in the world. Right?
So this is all entirely possible stuff.
Oh yeah,
This is not just like...
I mean, this is based. A Nobel Prize for this technique, was won by 2 women, which I think is a great, really, in that respect. It's the first time 2 women have ever won a Nobel Prize together. And it's also J-Lo, good old J-Lo. She was trying to do a series called CRISPR a couple of years back. And she had a DNA scientist and an FBI detective, and there was going to be all sorts of things. There's also a lot of gene editing. I don't know if you're familiar with the Netflix film Biohackers.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, it's a German film. It's a series, and that also was about gene editing, synthetic biology, creating things genetically engineered creatures, from scratch. But anyway, back to Designer Baby. Okay, so we've got high intelligence. I mean, you could have an Einstein.
Yeah.
You could have somebody who's a scientific or mathematical genius. What other types of things? Okay, high intelligence, we said, healthy, strong. You could get, as a matter of fact, there are biohackers who I know of, and one I communicate with, and there's Netflix, again, has had Human Nature and A Natural Selection, 2 of their series that have been on. These biohackers in particular that self-inject themselves with genes to try and create larger muscles. I mean, there's all sorts of odd things going on in that biohacking community.
Okay.
But
I want to ask about the series. So this is the 3rd book in your Underlying Crime series. Not only do we see the return of Tiger Girl from the last book, but we also see the return of Joe Blair, who was introduced in the first book.
Right.
How has your character changed over the course of these 3 books?
The 3 books. She was a whistleblower in the first book that I wrote. She had, there was some corporate things going on in a big company she was in where they were dumping genes that, made their children sick in a community. And she went from being a whistleblower to a DNA detective. So she is now focused entirely on the underlying crimes of genetic design. Here it was the underlying crimes of the pathogen, the tiger flu virus that was being created and put into those little honey sweeties. And here, of course, the genetic crimes is the crime of playing God. I mean, the theme in all of these is, should we be playing God? Should we now have the ability to alter life as we know it. But should we?
Sure.
So there's a whole ethical concern out there too. I mean, and also if we have designer babies, who decides? Who makes these decisions?
And
right?
who can afford it?
Right, and of course our heavy metal band, they want perfect pitch.
Yeah.
There are some, I mean, that which is a real select gene. They want things that will enhance them. And in this particular case, they wanted identical replicas, except they were totally, enhanced with every possible, good gene along with it.
I like the idea of this genetic crimes organization that just
Yeah.
investigates these quote unquote mad scientists and
Yeah.
tries to stop them. But is Tiger Girl, is she just a crazy brainiac? Is she more dangerous than that? What kind of threat does she pose to Joe and Jeremy?
Well, to Joe and Jeremy, they live parallel lives. And she is as elusive and devious as they come. But in some ways she has a vulnerable side to her too. And it comes out. I don't think there is such a thing as the perfect hero and the perfect anti-hero. They're not totally antithetical. Neither are perfect people. And they are actually, she's more of a scam artist.
Oh, okay.
She's a scammer. She never did create that tiger flu that was going to be coming to America.
Not a spoiler there.
I'm spoiling it. I know, but
You still got to read the book, though. Kat.
yeah,
Some
but
good
you still have to read the book. But quite frankly, I would start with Designer Baby and read backwards.
Oh.
I think it's a good idea to do that.
So if you
Because-
read this one
yeah.
first, you're not going to be totally, you're
No.
not going to be like missing stuff or
No,
wow.
you're not going to miss a whole lot, but what you're going to do is miss the backstory.
Ah.
And this one is a lot more saucy than that one too. So
I love a
yes,
saucy
and
book.
because she's pretty sultry. Actually, this is John Land here that says a smooth and sultry hybrid of Michael Crichton and Tess Gerritsen.
Nice.
That was John Land's review on here. He has Designer Baby, but I gotta get him to read it soon.
There you go. There you go. One thing I really want to ask you about now, you know, of course, this out in book and ebook format, but you're also trying to get this thing made into a movie.
Right.
I understand you've actually submitted a
Yep.
screenplay version.
Right, to NetPack, it's Impact Entertainment.
Okay.
It's Impact and Netflix combined. It's Ron Howard and Brian Grazer. And of course, they, you know, a lot of their movies, A Beautiful Mind, you know, all the Da Vinci movies. Their big one was Splash way back when, Cinderella Man, Apollo 13. But what they've done is they're making calls for various types of genres, and I've submitted for their female-led thriller.
Oh.
So it's a feature film, 20 to 50 million, and I've got my pitch right here. The film is going to be called A Most Wanted Woman, and it's based on actually all three of my books, but I've changed things. I've taken Jo Blair and I've made her a much more assertive and you know, a lot more conflict going on, a lot more suspense, and I really stepped it up a notch.
Did you have to make any other changes to the book to kind of transfer it to the screenplay form? Did you like lose scenes, lose characters?
When you go from a book to a screenplay, you lose about over 90% of what you've got there. A screenplay is you've got your scenes, your settings, you've got your action lines,
Sure.
you have your characters, you have your dialogue, and it is very bare bones.
Wow.
It is not the same kind of thing at all. It's actually a whole different. It's a matter of how many words you don't. If you have too many words on a page, they won't read it.
So, given that, how did you keep all the important stuff? If you had to lose about 90% of the story, how did you keep it to what you wanted it to be?
Well, I rewrote parts.
Oh, okay.
There were parts, and here you cannot put in the detail. You know, there's a lot of movies. If you read the book, you'll say, "Oh, wait a minute, it wasn't like that." They'll change it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, every time I
Yeah.
see a movie based on a book, it's always like, wow, the book was way better, or they were able to put more stuff in there. I think the best example was Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Like, the book and the movie have so little to do with each other.
Yeah.
It's completely different endings, way more to it.
But the theme stays the same.
Exactly,
And the
yeah.
theme is there.
Okay.
Also, there's a pair, the Rhode Island Biohackers that they're actually in the movie too. Although I call it New England, somewhere in New England. I don't use the state of Rhode Island in my in the screenplay.
I get you.
But we do have these two biohackers that are really up to no good also, and then Joe and Jeremy Blair, and Joe Blair is the DNA detective. Her husband's a digital detective, so they're working together to try and track down, these biohackers, and actually they befriend one of them in particular. And I'm not going to go into a lot more detail because there's a lot of intrigue. Everybody wants Mei Wong, the Chinese MSS, the Russian FSB, the American FBI, of course, Interpol, everybody's out to capture her. Then Joe and Jeremy Blair are working with a group of partners here who are CDC, DHS, FBI. It's a small, secret group. But there's a big chase, all through Scandinavia. They end up in Norway on a train chase from Bergen to Voss, which is where the water isn't actually bottled. But there's a train chase, and everyone is trying to capture. I won't give that ending away.
Don't do that.
But
Don't
everyone
do that.
is trying to capture Tiger Girl. Actually, we call her Tiger Woman now that she's grown up and she's in this screenplay.
When do you think you'll know whether
Oh.
it's been picked up?
Okay, I should know end of December.
Ooh.
If
Good present for you.
If they want to interview me further, there are probably, oh gosh, there are entries from all over the world
Oh,
at this
sure.
point.
Yeah.
So I mean, what are the chances of actually getting some interest?
You never know.
Yeah, you never know. And also, if they do, they set you up. You're the creator. They set you up with a shaper who helps you, in presenting the pitch for the movie. I mean, it's a dream. I think it's a dream every writer has, is
Oh,
to
yeah.
see their book on the big screen.
Absolutely. So what's next for you?
Next, well, I've been writing short stories.
Excellent.
Got a short story in the Aria anthology, Hope. It's Married in Moscow. It's actually more of a memoir for me, which I don't write memoir usually, but this is a story how I was working in Moscow, and because actually a lot of my stories are based on having lived in Zimbabwe, Africa for a couple of years, and then actually nearly 4 years in Africa. In Moscow for 2 years, where I got married in a most unusual wedding to a most unusual Englishman. And I've written about that, and it was this dates me, 1980. It was the year of the Moscow Olympics that we boycotted because of the invasion of Afghanistan. Not ours, but the Soviet. This was Russia, Moscow, Russia, back in the USSR. You don't know how lucky you are. And it was a wonderful 2 years, with the diplomatic community, the correspondence, the spies, the intrigue, and it was it was a wonderful time to be in Russia in terms of excitement.
Wow.
And of course I was a lot younger, a lot cuter, and it was probably the most exciting 2 years I ever had. Africa was wonderful, but that was a different type of excitement. I've also written a lot about, I was doing field work in biology in Africa, so I've also written some stories, animal stories, a lot out in the bush, coming across the big bull elephant, the herd of Cape buffalo, or walking into a troop of baboons, and there was a fair amount of excitement in Africa too. I think it's time for me to reflect, and we've got lots of time now to reflect and to write a lot of short stories.
Excellent.
And hopefully, I'd like to do more screenplays too. I'd like to do a lot of things. I'm not done yet. It's like
You shouldn't be. You
it's
shouldn't
like
be.
Monty Python. I'm not dead yet. What is it?
Exactly. Well, Joann, it's been great talking again. Definitely
Thank
good to
you.
catch up on the new book. So, folks, Designer Baby, Tiger, Underlying Crimes, and of course her selection in the Hope Aria anthology series. You can find out all about this at Joann Mead, JoannMead.com. Find her on Amazon, or buy her books here at Stillwater Books.
Right.
And you can, and of course, December 5th, the RI Author Expo, entirely virtual this year. Go to RIAuthorexpo.com for more information, and we'll see you next week.